All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Weekly Watt for Friday, April 22nd, 2022. I'm one of your hosts, Colin Jenkins, alongside Future of Fitness himself, Eric Malzone. How's it going?
Good. How you doing, Colin? Good to be back.
I'm surviving. I think we're both been a little sick for a little too long.
Yeah.
How long? I've had this like sinus issue or something for a while, and I know you had. How long have you had something going on for?
I don't really know. I probably got COVID. We didn't have enough tests here up in our corner of Montana to really know for sure. But that was like the beginning of January, and then I know it was never bad, and then it just kind of slowly stuck around until basically now. And last like month has just been brutal. So I finally got on antibiotics. Yeah, it's just gross and disgusting and not fun.
I've had something for like 4 weeks, and you said it's funny because I think you were telling me last week that you were having trouble getting antibiotics. Like your doctor was asking you like questions, and I think it's because you might have like a good insurance or a good doctor. Because I tried to get it this week. I was like, oh, it's probably gonna be hard. They won't even let me make an appointment or even talk to somebody. I filled out a form, and literally 2 minutes later, they're like, okay, your antibiotics are ready. So really, it's I think it depends. Mine was just like, all right, if you want something, just we're not going to see you, but we'll get you what you want as long as we don't have to spend any time with you. You're good. So
yeah, it was. Well, that's good to know. I mean, I feel like I had to jump through hoops to get it, and
yeah.
But it's not like I'm peddling antibiotics on the side.
No, so hopefully we're feeling both a lot better by next week.
Yeah, so too.
Because I'm over this completely. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Weekly Watt live show, where each and every week we come together to nerd out about everything in connected fitness and health. If you like that, you can head over and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Connect the Watts, and watch the show live, or you can watch or listen to the Weekly Watt podcast later on any major podcast platform like Apple or Spotify. Now, joining us later on in the show will be the original Peloton head instructor, Lisa Niren, to talk about what she's been up to these past 8 years and her new project coming out with FITURE. But for now, let's talk about some news. And surprisingly, it's been a very light week in terms of connected fitness news, at least in terms of news that's interesting to me. I mean, there's always stuff going on, but not always necessarily interesting stuff. But there was a potential leak this week of Peloton's new rower that is evidently, I mean, according to rumors, they're supposed to be kind of revealing or announcing or releasing their rower at their big, they have a homecoming event every year in May. So next month. And so I'll show you some pictures of it, but there is a rower that got released, or this diagram kind of got released of the rower. And it's kind of interesting because I've never seen a design, like this before, where, essentially, usually on a rower, the flywheel or the magnetic resistance is in the front of the unit, whereas here it's towards the back, which is interesting because what it allows for is to have a thinner front. And as you can see, if you look up at the diagram, the screen folds forward, which would make it fairly compact, although I'm not quite sure it would be able to sit up or stand up like some other rowers. But it's definitely a unique kind of design I've never seen before.
What is the resistance on this? Is it air? Is it
no? It's electromagnetic. Magnetic, yeah.
Magnetic, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so similar to Hydrow or similar to Hydrow or NordicTrack's new rower. They're both magnetic. Although that one's like based off a flywheel, whereas Hydrow and this one, look, it's a little different in terms of its design. Now, the reason a lot of people, including myself, thought this might be Peloton's is, well, for one, it was a part of a patent made last month or in February by Rexon, which is one of Peloton's main manufacturers that they partner with. But they do partner with a lot of other companies. So, but some of the things that were kind of interesting was there's this little knob here in the front, like this little dial, which I guess is probably to adjusted damper settings or resistance.
Resistance, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that looks very similar to like a Peloton tread dial, and how they design things. And then, kind of this little oval bottom foot design that's very much in like the Peloton design skew. So, and with the big screen and everything. So potentially it could be with Peloton, but I have heard also rumors that some Peloton employees who are evidently testing it right now at their homes have said that this is not it. So I'm not sure whether one way or the other. It could be also just for another company like Tonal or somebody else who might be, who works with this manufacturer as well to, open up their, fitness SKU more. But definitely a unique design. And, the other bit of news this week was, and it was a small bit of news, was, Hydrow put out a new hotel finder for their rowers. And so, just similar to what Peloton had done previously, Hydrow is, starting to get their units out to more and more hotels. And so, now if you want to take a trip and you really want to, make sure you stay fit and row and work out, you can try to pick a hotel that has a Hydrow in it. So that is it really for that news. But I wanted to spend this time with you because I know you, rowing is a big thing for you. It's like your number one fitness device, right? I mean, in terms of cardio and stuff, it's your number one go-to device. And so I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on a couple of things. One being your thoughts on like the popularity and growth of popularity of rowing, because, rowing wasn't very popular 20 years ago. And now it's kind of exploding, and kind of what your thoughts on it compared to like a bike or a treadmills. And then also, we'll talk a little bit about the different kind of bigger players in the connected fitness rowing space. And, I've been testing almost all of them out at this point. So maybe give you some idea about in thoughts of the differences between them. But let's just start with your thoughts on kind of, rowing as just a fitness platform versus some of the other more popular, ones like biking and running.
Yeah. It's a super interesting time for the rowing niche, right? Like it's just exploding. The guys at the Fit Insider wrote an article like 6 months ago. I think it was called Rowing Wars. I just had a podcast released a few weeks ago with Shane Farmer of Dark Horse talking about what is going on in the rowing niche. And it's I don't know if it's going to last forever, but it is hot right now. Like everybody's getting into it. Like, Peloton, I think, is the one that everyone's really waiting and watching and see what's going to happen. But when I look at rowing for me personally as a modality for training, I mean, I'm 45 years old now. I still love running, but I can't run all the time, especially in the winter here. Right. So, and I also don't like warming up and mobilizing. I know that's terrible as a former coach to say. So I like that I can just get on the rower and just start moving. And, as I just warm up as I go, and then the workouts are pretty simple. And the rower doesn't lie. I mean, I have a classic C2 rower, which is like the war horse of rowing machines. Right. And, I just always know the metrics. I kind of can always see over the last 15, 20 years that I've been using one of these machines, how my cardio fitness is doing over time, because I know my benchmarks. So it's very familiar to me too. But I think that's the big thing. It is now what I love is if you like at the gym that I go to, when I go there occasionally, there's a ski erg right next to a rowing machine. And those two machines complementary are like one of the best cardio workouts you can ever get, right? Hip opening, hip closing, anterior, posterior training, like all that's like this perfect little combo. And no one ever uses a ski erg. You don't have to worry about that being taken at the gym. So that's my personal love for it. I just know it well. I know it's going to, the more I put into it, the more it's going to give me. It's going to spit it right back out at me. And it's always a killer workout.
Yeah. When I compare it, because I've, this past year I've been doing I used to just row as my main, as being somebody who came from with, a primary CrossFit background. That was most people's main source of, cardio besides running. And, with rowing, it's so much different now compared to like Peloton with biking, with cycling, and with, doing a lot of treadmill work now that I do. With rowing, the biggest difference for me is like, it's so much shorter of a session.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
like, I mean, I did like a 45-minute row session yesterday on a Hydrow, and that 45 minutes is significantly more than 45 minutes on, a bike. A 45-minute bike ride on the Peloton, that one, I mean, I do that all the time. That one, like, that's just a normal kind of ride, but a 45-minute row, that's like a pretty significant
That's a
row.
lot of work, dude.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so there's a big difference. And so I think for somebody who wants to get kind of the benefit of the cardio and the benefit that you would get from biking or running, but maybe are shorter in time, maybe you just want to have more shorter, like 10, 20, 30-minute at max, workouts, probably going to be able to get more out of, especially in terms of whole body, workout out of a rower than other modalities. So I think, it's interesting, but it's also less comfortable. So,
Yes. Yeah,
you
it's
know,
true.
I would say, like, in terms of comfort, you talk about, like, let's say like Versa climbers, right? And that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's even harder to do for like an hour long, but you can get a really good workout in a short time. And you're not going to be like sipping water and stuff like that while you're doing it.
Right.
Rowers like the next step down, right? It's still, you can drink water, but you kind of have to stop, and it's kind of, during intervals, you can kind of do it, but you're just kind of going, and you're not like relaxing really the whole time. Whereas biking, like, you're just kind of chilling for, I mean, you're pushing hard. Obviously it's not easy, especially depending on the class, but in terms of, like, there's a reason why the cycling classes are so entertaining, because they really need to be, because you're just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's not anything else to really hold your interest. So you need to have somebody, you don't need a real coach for the most part. I mean, it's nice to have good coaches on those cycling classes, but you really need is an entertainer, which is, why Peloton does so well, is they have really good entertainment for you while you kind of like take these longer modality classes. And so, I just really see rowing as a good compact way to get a workout in.
You made me think too, Colin, like there's certain things like, let's say swimming, for instance, right, is a modality where it's like, as you get more efficient at the skill of swimming gets easier.
Yes.
Right? Running, same thing. As you get more efficient, it gets easier. Rowing, I feel like I'm not too convinced that happens. I feel like as you get better at rowing, you can your capacity for power output and suffering increases on the machine. I think that's an interesting thing too. It's like, you have to have, I mean, from your CrossFit, you have to have a certain amount of strength or power to really dig into what that machine can do for you. You have to have that prerequisite. And that's something that I think kind of keeps the journey going as far as rowing. It never really ends. It's why people like you and I can stick to it for such a long time.
Yeah, no, I think it's true of other modalities too, but I think maybe it's more noticeable maybe on the rower. Yeah. It's easier to notice the differences because there is more technique involved in it, right?
There is.
There's a lot, and that's going to be another interesting thing as we kind of get into rowers becoming more and more popular. Is, traditionally, most people aren't buying rowers and taking them home for the first time. Like, that's just not something most people would do. I mean, if you bought a rower for your house, you typically bought it because you had experience with it other places. But now I'm guessing that's going to be the majority of people are going to be trying out the rower for the very first time without an instructor. And I think people kind of realize that it takes more technique and form, but I don't think they really realize how much more technique and form is involved in rowing, because you can't just jump on a rower for the first, I mean, super athletic people can, but for the average person, you can't just jump onto a rower and expect to be like even close to what you should be doing, like for the first day or even maybe the week or several weeks, especially without instruction.
Well, when I'm at the gym, my wife makes me promise now that I'm not officially a coach that I can't coach people when I go in. And when sometimes, like, I can't help myself, like I have cringe moments when I go in the gym, I see someone rowing and I see just a couple little things. I know if I just showed them, it would change everything in their world, but I have to keep my mouth shut because I made my wife a promise that I wouldn't go up and coach random people at a gym that I don't own anymore. I'm curious about so you've got a chance to test like a lot of different rowers, right?
Yeah, about 7 of them.
And there's like different, like, how do you categorize? Because there's like water rowers, there's, air fan bike or air fans, there's the magnetic, plus there's like gamified ones, there's ones that are more traditional training. Like give us the landscape overall of what you're seeing in the rowing modality.
I mean, yeah, there's everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of nice. You can really kind of figure out, obviously that's the other thing, is like, you're not really trying these things out before you buy them. So it's hard, I think, for people to figure out like, well, which one is going to be the best one for me, because most of these rowers, the vast majority of them they're excellent. They're great. The water row, like, so you said you have a Concept 2. In terms of popularity and in terms of like time tested, like, good rowers, the Concept 2 is probably number 1, but the water rower is number 2. And the water rower really got popularized, I think, by Orange Theory was the one that kind of adopted them and put them into all of their studios. And the TV show House of Cards. Yeah. Yes, I remember that. And I've been using the water rower quite a bit this last year, and I really like it. I think the problem with something like a fan at home, and you don't care because you're a monster who just goes into the garage and it's loud and you don't care. But for somebody who's going to have it within I'm in a smaller apartment here with a 4-year-old running around, and I'm probably going to be working out most of the time when she's asleep. So that fan's super loud, right? And whereas a water rower or a magnetic resistance rower are much more quiet. And in terms of like the resistance, water rowers feel really good. They sound really cool too. So I like that. And the magnetic resistance, it just depends on the company, and that's where it's going to be interesting to see these different companies come to play. So there's some rowers that I've tried where the magnetic resistance feels great and it feels like a rower should, or even better than a rower should. Like the Hydrow rower I'm testing right now, I would say it feels better than the Concept 2. Which is very impressive.
And when you say feel better, like what does that mean exactly? In what ways?
So that's it's if with a rower, the big thing about rowing. Another thing that some people and maybe even some companies don't understand is that you shouldn't be having to change your resistance all the time with the rower. In fact, probably never do once you kind of figure out where you want to kind of be. And most people don't even call it resistance. It's like a damper. It's just kind of like how the feel of it's going to be. But the resistance is really created by you and how hard you are rowing. Because the harder you row, the harder the resistance is. And that's easily understood by the fan and the water, because if you're pushing water, the harder you push, the harder it is to push. And same with air. But with magnetic resistance, it's not true. And so they have to kind of figure out the mechanisms in place to make that feeling true. And not all the rowers are getting that right. And Hydrow did. And it feels super smooth. Like it feels like it should, as if there were air or water, but there's no air or water. So it feels even smoother than that. And it sounds like a Tesla. It's really weird. But I found the experience of it, like it just feels very, very snappy. And so far that's probably the best feeling rower that I've used. But the other big difference you mentioned was the type of workouts you'll be doing on them. So, there's gamified ones, there's, class led ones, like scenic led ones. There's ones that are class led, but like studio class led ones. So it's really going to depend on what you're looking for. I think, for me, I like, for example, Hydrow is one that's instructor led for the most part, outdoors. And it's kind of impressive. They do these outdoor live classes. So it's actually like live outdoor on the water and stuff like that. So I think those are really good. I think for me, I occasionally get sick of the instructor stuff because, I've taken, over this past year, I've probably taken over at minimum 400 classes with instructors. And that's not including, because, I review all this stuff. So sometimes when I review stuff, I will do a workout and I'll watch like 2 or 3 more. And so I can occasionally get sick of them because, I'm so used to it. Whereas some of the gamification for like the rower for Ergatta, for example, I really enjoy that because it's a time away from having to hear all these people talk to me, because sometimes I just don't really care. Like, I know how to row.
Yeah, right.
And so I like the gamification because, they put the way they make these games is it's not they don't try to squeeze in like a workout into some weird game. They try to make a really good workout programs. And I actually talked to their um, program designer on this show a few months ago about design programs. So they really do a good job designing programs, and then they figure out how to gamify those programs in a way that makes it kind of more interesting, or gets people more excited to keep coming back and keep going after like that progression. And so it's hard to, I don't think there's going to be one that's going to be the best rower. I think it's going to be really depending on a lot of those factors of like what you prefer, and like you said, there's different types. Like the water rower with Ergatta looks really, really nice, and it's easily fold up. The Hydrow also looks really nice, but it's a different feel. And so I don't know how people are going to figure it out. There's a lot. But one thing actually, what's cool, I saw that Hydrow is doing now is they are offering a free like personal training session for people who buy one. It's smart. Virtual, so it's limited to what you can get done, but it's still beneficial because I'm just so curious about what's going to happen when millions of people jump on their rowers. Because I don't know, have you seen the commercials for any of the like rowers and stuff like that, like from Hydrow or anybody else?
I've seen some ads pop up. Yeah, I'm mostly like in YouTube. I don't really watch.
Oh yeah,
We cut the cable a while ago, so I've seen some of them. I mean, the curiosity I have is like, how many of these players do you think the market can handle? Right. I think that's the question. And I mean, it's hard. I don't know numbers of any of these companies and how they're doing, but do you have a sense of like kind of who's pulling ahead in the indoor rowing space right now? Or do we know that?
I don't know any. The argument is like, it's hard to know if it's going to be, there has been lots of arguments that like there's going to be a few companies that are going to be the big ones that win out because they have, you can get row, like let's say Peloton as a rower, and then you could row, you could bike, you could treadmill, you could do other stuff. But realistically, the average person is probably not going to buy multiple things for their home.
No,
they're just going to buy one. And so from an argument, like one argument perspective is yeah, that could be the best because you could expand your gym out, but how many people really will do that? Whereas, somebody may want just to be on the best rowing experience, and maybe Hydrow does that. Or maybe Ergatta or Aviron, or there's different ones. So I don't know if it's going to be necessarily a winner takes all. I mean, it might be a winner takes majority, but there might be enough interest for a lot of these to survive, depending on the situation. I mean, how many companies make barbells or dumbbells?
It's true,
right? There's enough. I mean, there's a few that are obviously more used than others, but there's still enough of a market for other companies to do well in. So yeah, I'm not sure about the rowing and how that'll do.
What about the price points, Colin? Like, are you seeing, like, I noticed there's a lot of these connected home devices have kind of cut prices really since like, I guess the beginning of the year. Yeah. It's still, I mean, the majority of them seem to still be around the $3,000 mark. Do you think that's going to stay strong, or do you think that's going to drop
for rower?
Yeah, I've seen some $3,000 ones. Yeah,
I haven't really seen. I've seen like a little over. Yeah, maybe 2,000, 2,500.
Well, it's usually like 3,000, but then it's slashed, right?
So okay,
yeah. So
that doesn't really count.
That's marketing.
I just count whatever the highest price they've actually sold it at. In like the recent 6 months is actually the price. I mean, $2,000 I think is definitely an upper end for rowers at this point.
Okay.
If you're paying more than that, it's definitely like a luxury rower. Like it's got to provide a lot. I don't know, man. It's tough to. I think over the next several years, you're going to see so many evolutions of like rowers and stuff. It's hard to know exactly what's going to happen with the price points because it's hard to know what they'll be able to provide. So it's really, they need to make, I think the price point more likely will be closer to $1,000 or $1,500. I think that makes much more sense for somebody to be able to invest for, a significant unit in their home. But, what I was looking up today was, because how bikes are definitely the most talked about, right? In terms of connectedness. They're still not sold nearly as well as treadmills. There's way more treadmills sold every year than indoor cycling exercise bikes. Which is, shocking to me, because all I hear and talk about a lot of time is bikes, but treadmills are still the most popular, and treadmills are on average a lot more expensive. They're $2,000-$3,000 typically.
And they're a huge footprint for the most part, right? Like these things are big and heavy and just take up a lot of space.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting better. There's definitely some more foldable ones, and but overall they definitely take up a lot more space. But so I was shocked, sometimes, what you think of is like the right price point or the right size, the market says otherwise, because obviously treadmills are still selling very well and still selling better than bikes, which, as somebody who doesn't like to run nearly as much as bike, I wouldn't have thought, but evidently there's runners out there somewhere.
Do you think they'll ever have like a transformer, like a flywheel bike that turns into a rower, like one device that does 2 or 3 things? Do you think that's possible and doable? I'm sure someone's tinkering in their garage right now, just taking apart like C2s.
I've seen combos of like ski ergs with rowers with something else.
Yeah.
But have a bike and a rower mix, that would be like really weird. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. It is almost 12. Let's go ahead and let's bring in our guest this week, the original Peloton head instructor, Lisa Niren, to talk about what she's been up to over the past 8 years and her new project coming out with FITURE. So let me bring Lisa on, and here we go. Hey, Lisa.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Of course. How you doing?
I am excellent. It is a beautiful day in New York.
Right on. Nice to meet you, Lisa.
Nice to meet you too.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We're really excited to kind of hear, I know, we talked earlier, was it this week or maybe last week, about your new project with FITURE that's going on right now. But, I would really want to talk about kind of the evolution for you, because you've been doing this stuff for a long time now. And kind of going back from, the days you were working with Peloton all the way to now, and kind of like what led to what you were doing. I'm just super curious about to hear all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my journey in connected fitness starts at the very, very beginning. I started my career actually in finance and accounting, CPA, CFA. So it's funny that that's where I started. I always thought indoor cycling on the side, pre-Soul Cycle days, pre-Flywheel days. I absolutely love teaching. I think I started to realize, I should maybe do this as a full-time job. I went to Flywheel. I was one of the first instructors there, helped them open up new markets up and down the East Coast. As I started to sell out classes that were, 60 bikes strong, whether it was an 11:30 a.m. on a Monday or a primetime slot, I thought to myself, why limit myself to 60 people in the room? Why not 600, 6,000, 600,000? But this was 2012 and nobody was talking about digital connected fitness. So I read a tech blog that was interviewing John Foley, and he basically said this was my idea. This was in 2012, and I have no investors, and I have not a penny to my name. I don't have a prototype, and I just guessed his email address. I sent him an email, and I was like, hey, you should hire me. I'll be your head instructor, and I'll run content. I don't think I even knew what the word content meant in that context, but it seemed like a fancy buzzword, and I was like, great, this is awesome. And he invited me into the then studio in West Chelsea, or then office in West Chelsea, where we filmed out of a closet. You could basically be on the bike and running the show behind the cameras and running the lights all at the same time. That's how small it was. Former broom closet. And I was like, all right, I'm in. This is it. This is awesome. I believe in this product. And I loved it from the early days. Then we opened the original studio. And I loved the community. I loved growing it. I mean, we've created shorter content because a woman in Ohio had a farm and told me on Thursday morning she couldn't take a 45-minute cycling class. So it was really fun to watch it evolve and to really listen to user feedback to understand what the market wanted. That's how we created Beyond the Ride, which was the original, moving off the bike type of content.
Okay.
And then from there, as companies like that, as startups take in hundreds of millions of dollars, things change. A number of us left at a certain point. I am forever grateful and indebted to the company and the brand, But my biggest takeaway was, you know, a treadmill or a bike with or without financing are still an expensive purchase, right? So my theory became to myself, and my thesis was, how do you become more value driven and accessible? So at the time, you know, I had a little bit of time on my hands, and I went and I got other certifications, started teaching other modalities, owned a couple of studios as well. But at the same time, I just wanted to be digital again. So
yeah,
I met the co-founders of my last company, and we created a digital connected fitness brand that was iOS and Android based. How were we connected? We were the first of our kind to use Apple Watch and all Bluetooth heart rate monitors. I loved it because we were really gamified. We had a marketplace where we would do giveaways. And we had this whole currency aspect to it. And we started with treadmill because, to your earlier point, which I heard when I logged on, is that treadmills outsell bikes. And also speed and incline are universal in this country, right? So if you're in Muncie, Indiana, your speed is the same as if you're on a fancy treadmill in Equinox in Manhattan, right? So that was kind of my rationale for wanting to start with treadmill. From there, I built our broadcast production studio, built our team, and we dabbled in every modality from boxing to boot camp to cycling, you name it. We even had rowing. With that in mind, when Apple Fitness Plus came out, I had another aha moment, and I felt like I was kind of back to square one. And I thought to myself, well, their content is not better than ours, for sure. However, if I go buy a new Apple Watch, you know, iPhone, AirPods, you're going to get up to 12 months free content, whatever the, you know, promotion or special is going on.
Yep.
So I thought to myself, oh, well, this is not good. How do you compete with that? And they have phenomenal music. So, and I was like, you know, churn is real. So what am I going to, how am I going to figure my way around this? I felt like I was kind of back to my conundrum post Peloton. Like, how do I become more value driven and accessible? And I just had this thought that you have to partner with a Chinese company. You have to be truly vertically integrated and control every inch of your supply chain. And with that in mind, I thought to myself, you know, then when you do that, you can provide really incredible hardware with really incredible technology and software. And you can even have it be a premium product, but still provide a value-driven experience to a user. So in May of 2020, FITURE reached out to me and they said, like, we'd love to move you to Shanghai, have you teach for us and be our head and run our content. And I was like, wow, it's the beginning of a global pandemic. I don't even know how I would get there. I think the borders are closed. And then I was like, and who the hell are you guys? Like, I was like, I've heard of everyone in this space. I've never heard of you. So like, who are you? I basically ended the call saying, like, let's keep in touch. Never say never, but not right now. And when I got off the phone, I was mostly just curious. So I did a little research, and there was nothing I could find about FITURE at all, except for Sequoia Capital was the seed investor for $9 million. And I thought to myself, well, they don't bet on anything. They bet on sure things. So I was a little bit taken. I was like, okay, I should keep a watch of this. What I also know about Sequoia is that they missed the Peloton investment and they kicked themselves to this day. So I thought to myself, if this is the horse they're betting on, there's probably a good reason for it. And then I thought to myself, how does Sequoia know the founders and the founding partners of FITURE? So I did a little research and I learned that the founding partners of FITURE are serial entrepreneurs. They've taken a number of businesses public on the New York Stock Exchange, and most recently the Uber of trucking in China, and it's an autonomous driving company. I mentioned that because those are our engineers that work on our AI technology. So I thought to myself, these guys are definitely a tech company and they understand what it takes to be successful. And then I just kind of thought, you know what, I'll just keep a watch on them. Then I was reading in September 2020, I was reading a tech blog that was kind of going through funding in the space. And there it was, like, FITURE Series A, $69 million. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty large Series A. And I thought to myself, who are the investors behind this? And it was Tencent, Bertelsmann, and other private equity firms that invest in media companies, production, film, television, and music rights labels. And I thought to myself, okay, so these guys don't think it just needs to be a tech company. They realize it needs to be a media company at its core, and that it needs to be fitness entertainment, and music is really, really important. So I thought I should probably reach out to them. So I think I waited until the end of February 2021. I reached out and I said, hey, you know, I'm really not interested in moving to China. However, I love to chat about commercialization in North America, global expansion. We will build an incredible broadcast production studio and a team, and then we'll go do it again in the UK and Germany and everywhere else around the globe. And it moved very quickly. I think I signed April 1st, I don't know. I think April 15th, we signed closed our Series B round of funding, which was 400 mil. That made us unicorn status. And then I started officially on May 1st of 2021. It's been a whirlwind. May 1st to October 1st, I built the team by myself in New York, all by my lonesome. I had nobody else till then. And we, since October 1st, have been growing the team leaps and bounds. And I guess what made me jump at this opportunity was a couple-fold. You know, to go back to my mission statement of what it takes to be successful in this space and what I believe are the next steps are to be value-driven and accessible to the user. So we are truly vertically integrated. And with that, you know, we are a premium product, but I think if any of our competitors were making the same product, it would be 4 to 6 times expensive at least. So I really like that we were value-driven from that respect. And I guess, not to pat myself on the back, but we have a number of folks on our team that I brought over from Peloton, a number of folks from other really incredible brands as well, from Equinox to Tonal to Berries to Rumble, you name it. We have incredible, we have folks from HBO, CBS, so lots of media and also connected fitness experience on the team. But I think there are a couple things that really got me excited about this product. One is we take a lot of inspiration from Apple. So, you know, we're all familiar with the iPhone model. So, you know, you've got the iPhone 13 Pro, then you got the middle guy that comes in a couple colors, and then you got the cute little one. So our product is actually, we have variations like that. We are launching right in this market with the middle one. So it is 43 inches screen on the diagonal. It comes in 5 colors. You see the gold one in my virtual background right behind me.
Yeah, it's nice.
That's my favorite one. So it comes in gold, matte black, silver, green, and blue. And it has 2 speakers on the side that immerse you in a surround sound experience. So that was really exciting to me because any competitor in the space only has a speaker that hits the floor. And that seems silly to me because sound is super important. I think the next thing that was really, really compelling to me was, you know, we are not a touchscreen. And that was actually a draw for me for a couple of reasons, right? So if you are a touchscreen and the technology gets better, then the user has to go buy a new device or upgrade, right? So this way, with its software based, we can always push updates to users. So we do have a remote control app, which is lovely. And it's incredible for a couple of reasons. One, we are actually the only product of our kind where you have volume of the instructor and the music separately. So you can make each one independently, whatever percentage you want. You know, our remote control app is fantastic, but we have 2 features that I think are next level. One, and this is before we get into like the nitty gritty of what differentiates this product, is we've got what we call frictionless start. So frictionless start is really like gesture controls. So let's say you want to take class tomorrow at 7 a.m. live or on demand, doesn't matter. You opt in on your phone, it goes to your calendar. That's lovely. Almost every product we know does that, right? But then the device actually dings and reminds you like an alarm clock, like 10 minutes before class, 5 minutes before class. You walk up to your device, it turns on, you don't have to press a thing. You see a circle that's very Apple-esque. You raise your right hand and the circle fills up and class starts. You have to touch absolutely nothing. Cool. Same way at the end of class, you can give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, rate it. It's interactive. And then it's going to serve you up a class that it thinks that you might want to do next based on what you just took, based on what you like to take, and things like that. So I found that to be really compelling because, you know, using gestures is fantastic. What else do I not love about touchscreen is also if you're sweating and you touch a mirror, it's going to get fingerprinty and gross. And I don't care who says anything differently. If you are sweating and you use touchscreen functionality, it doesn't work properly because you're sweaty and gross. So I think it's for me, it's really threefold that I think it's phenomenal to have this. And we also have vocal recognition. Voice recognition is incredible to me because it's kind of like when you say to your phone, like, hey, Siri. So if you say, hey, FITURE, I want to take a core class. Boom, your core classes pop up. Like, hey, FITURE, I want to try meditation today. It literally brings you everything to the forefront just based on your vocal command. So we've had a lot of fun as a team kind of understanding what we want to say for those, you know, words to kind of the wake up word for the device. So that was really fun to play around with. So those things were really compelling to me out of the gate. But the most incredible part to me is the technology here. So we have trademarked it as motion engine technology. It's AI technology, but AI is kind of creepy in this market. So there are 29 points of AI detection in the device. So if you take a simple air squat as an example, and you squat down and you stand up, it's interactive. It will give you form feedback, count your reps, and give you like bulleted point feedback as well. And also a heat map of a body. So you know what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. In our remote control app, you can also put in different settings about any injuries or ailments you have. So for example, I've had a lot of knee surgery and I pronate when I walk. I put that in my device as my limitations, and it can alter my feedback and kind of understand if there are moments when I can't squat as deep. So I was taken by that. But when I first got my device, I tried to mess it up, for lack of a better word. I was like, how can I make this not work and tell these people this doesn't actually work? And no matter where I stood or what I did, it works seamlessly. And this device pairs with any Bluetooth heart rate monitor and also Apple Watch. And I will tell you, I've never actually connected either of those things because it works so seamlessly without them. One thing that I'm super proud of and our whole team is that we have worked really hard for our different modalities to make this interactive experience different. So what do I mean by that? So for HIIT, obviously you want to do as many reps as possible, right? We're trying to elevate your heart rate and help you, continue to burn calories and fat even at rest. So for that, we have different ways that we can do that vis-a-vis timed intervals, AMRAPs, EMOMs, chippers, max effort opportunities. But if you think about strength, that's not necessarily what you're driving to do, right? So for strength, we work a lot with pace. So with pace and tempo, and also static hold. So we can really allow people to increase their weight. And they actually, if they don't go at our pace, they don't get the points that they want to get or the credit that they want to get for that motion engine rep counter. And that obviously is super important. In addition, boxing, we have a really cool gamified experience. So you can kind of see the different punches and the different combinations and know what's coming up and have it hold you accountable. For cardio sculpt, which is kind of like a form of cardio dance, but more fitness driven movements, we have a similar really fun gamified version as well. So if you think about fight dance or any of those like kind of more gamified experiences, it really just brings it to life. So we've had a lot of fun kind of going through our different modalities and revamping them to make this technology really unique for them, including, Pilates, meditation, yoga, you name it, we do it. So it's been really fun and exciting. And I think other than that, like a couple of ways that we really differentiate are, we don't just have a black box setup. We also have a really cool set design. Sometimes we hide it and just have our stage visible. And we also have a 4-camera setup, which none of our competitors have. So we've got a cam 1, side body, side angle, and a track cam that moves all the way around. And we're really excited to be bringing this to this market. And I think it's technology that really, the proof is in the pudding. It helps you come back and get better for it day in, day out, hold you accountable. I mean, I'll tell you that some of our 5-minute hits are the hardest classes I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, sure.
Like they pack a punch. And it's just that extra level of not just community with our leaderboard and users, but also, the technology really, truly helps you want to work harder. Like for me, it replaces needing to go to, a CrossFit gym and do a class where I'm being held accountable. Like it's right there in my home.
Yeah. So one of the things I thought was really interesting and kind of impressive about it that I really liked is, we were talking about this earlier with rowers, but difference between some rowers are more instructor led and some are more gamified led. And here it really does seem like you guys are kind of being able to combine both, being able to see and listen to an instructor, but also still having gamified elements that kind of keep you on track of like where you want to be personally and that are a little bit more custom to like your own fitness. So I thought that was a really good, potential mix of those two that I haven't really seen a ton of before.
Yeah, so we have two, more than two, but two really cool features. One is do-it-yourself classes. So basically you can go in and customize and create a class that's stacked movements of what you want. You can make them, so if you do see an image or I don't know how else to say, but it's kind of like a gift, but it's not actually a gift. So you'll see the instructor doing those movements. So let's say you want to start out with 30 seconds of thrusters, and maybe there's a 5-second rest, and then you want 30 seconds of, I don't know, push presses into a 10-second rest. You can basically build your own class, any duration of time, any combination of movements, weighted, body weight, however you want to structure it, you can create those and you can save them and come back to them, and you're still getting that form feedback and you're still getting that same accountability. But maybe you just don't want an instructor-led class today. You just kind of want to pick the things that you're excited about right now, and you can filter how you search those. So maybe weighted, upper body, lower body, like however you want to do it, very easy to navigate. And then we have what we call challenges. So basically from some of those movements, and the challenges are also very gamified and fun. So maybe it's like a star jumping jack, and maybe it's 75 seconds. And once that timer's on, it's like, how many can you get done? And then you can share it with the community and see how other people do and compete. So community is really a focal point for us, but we also really push something that we call a FITURE day, like have a FITURE day. And what does that really mean? You don't have to do 60 minutes or 45 minutes of sweating or working out in one shot, or even for that day to be successful. So for us, it's like, how can we give you these moments throughout your day? Maybe you're working from home. Maybe you just have pockets of time early in the morning, late at night. So having these small, like snackable and stackable experiences, very important to us.
Yeah, I like that. I noticed too, just looking at the device and the images I've seen online, that it doesn't look like it's wall mounted. Is this something that you can move from room to room, or does it have to be mounted?
Basically, and I always virtual background them behind me because I think it's like easy for people to see. But
yeah,
I during quarantine proper, I probably had every other device on the market that is a mirror in my home. And I like to think that I'm a very strong female. I could not move those for the life of me. Like I felt like I was going to break them. They were really, really heavy. Our device is super easy to move around. I never feel like I'm going to break it. You can lean it against a wall, and there is like a reinforcement on the back. So in case you have a dog or kids or things like that, it won't get knocked over. You don't have to worry like, oh no, like what if someone knocks into it? But there is, I don't like to call it a wall mount. It really just looks like a reinforcement, and you can put it into the wall. So it's not going to damage the wall if you're renting a place and you don't own it. You don't have to worry about really, it's very, I guess it's much, much smaller than a wall mount, but it's really just like a reinforcement, kind of a pin. So you can do that as well. And you can move it from room to room. And just objectively speaking, if this weren't the case, I would just not say anything at all. It is the most flattering mirror I've ever used in my life. And it's also a stunning piece of furniture. You know what I mean? Like It is really dual purpose. And I think for us, it's an entry point into people's homes, right? Fitness and health and wellness are the game that we're in. And I think that fitness is our first way into people's lives. So how else can we help people live a healthier and better lifestyle? Our brand mantra and our company mantra is, and mission statement is, be well, live well. And that doesn't happen in one day, but it happens over months and years. So for us, it's how do we achieve that with people globally?
Yeah, well, I know Colin likes slendering mirrors. That's one of his favorite things. So.
No, I think it's really good. And I think, when the, fitness mirrors started becoming a thing, and I think especially because of, it's gestureless, like, or it's gesture, you can control with gestures versus touching it, which I agree, because I review a lot of these things. Like the amount of times I have to spend cleaning them is insane in terms of like, after every use, pretty much they have to be, if you want it to look not really gross after I use it, at least you got to wipe it down. But I was having a conversation with somebody else this week about the kind of future of connected fitness, and what something that with let's go back to a Peloton, for example. Having a big bike with a big screen is great, but part of what makes really good tech is making it invisible. And so I think things like having a dual purpose, like a mirror that could look like a really nice, part of a room that would functionally fit in there. And then all of a sudden, when you're ready to work out, or it can remind you like, oh yeah, you're going to work out. And then you have this whole integrated, fitness program that's, customized to you, just within, like, it's invisible to everybody else, but it's right there and ready, and it's smart and ready for you to go. I think that's really kind of more of the future of home fitness, is making these things less, clunky, less big, and trying to figure out how to make them more integral into part of the home, which I think obviously this does. So no, I'm excited for you guys. And did you guys launch it already? Is it out already?
Yes. So our website is live. We launched, you can get it in any one of the colors, any of the 5 colors today. We had our press launch last week, so our embargo gets lifted next Tuesday, and we will be in the media as of Tuesday at 9 a.m.
Right on.
Awesome.
Right on. Awesome.
So it's really exciting. And to your point, I think that, something we talk about a lot is that we are going from, version 1.0 of connected fitness to version 2.0. And I think that is a big change, is having, a dual purpose device, something that's, can function in your home and doesn't just look like a big clunky piece of fitness equipment. And I think, that's a big reason that we do offer it in every color. So what is your home design aesthetic? What do you want this to look like? And how do you want it to blend in with your life? And we want to make that possible. So to your point, I think that that's one aspect of it. And I think the other aspect of it is, you can only take so many fitness classes a day, a week, a month, a year. And I say this a lot. So there is a whole portion of my content team that I've built out that will be responsible for what is other non-fitness content that we can provide. What do I mean by that? What about like nutrition, cooking shows, building this web between instructors and users. So maybe it's reality TV, things you would find on Facebook Watch or, Netflix original series. Having that kind of programming as well is super important for us because it creates that virality. And that's really how you can also build a really strong community.
It's interesting because I've had this topic come up numerous times on my podcast about the Internet of Things. And I think something like this looks, as to both what you and Colin are saying, is like, this could be a central point for the Internet of Things. I mean, if you talk about a nutrition class or a cooking class that, automatically links with, a home delivery service so that, everything is dropped off to you or everything you need. And then it's a pretty crazy world, but something has to be the centerpiece of the Internet of Things in someone's home. And I think this and the refrigerator are probably the 2 things that seem to be, centrally located to do it. Have you guys looked that far down the road as possibly being the centerpiece of that?
Yeah. I mean, we think a lot macro wise, like what are our longer term goals? What is the future of this? I mean, one thing that I've always been passionate about is what if you're taking class and you're like, I love what my instructor's wearing. You should be able to, tap and purchase and get that, like Amazon Prime style. It should just show up at your house tomorrow, right? So I think to your point, there is so much that can be done on this device. And I think it's really the hub of everything that, we want to be doing. So for us, it's really a no-brainer to continue to add different types of content and really, build this viral community.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to call it there, you guys. Thanks again so much, Lisa, for joining us today. And
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric, for joining us as well.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for everybody watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.